On being back on the show full time. How has it been? How has it been different this time around, or how has it been coming back onto the set?
Exactly the same. All the walls look the same. The sets look the same. Nothing is different. It's actually different going into work under contract than not,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't know what's going to happen, if you're under contract, you don't care. But if you're not on contract, you're always like, hey, so what's happening lately? So what's been going on? So I'm not asking that many questions anymore. I'm just kind of going in and doing what they say.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah, it's a more peaceful and a more secure feeling, which I hope kind of comes out. Maybe I won't be so panicky in my work.
Yeah.
Huh.
And you know what I like right now is the storyline that's playing now with Allie and the baby, that whole entire storyline, how it's interwoven, families and characters and stuff. And Lindsay and Bryan, I wonder if you guys can both talk about like working on that particular storyline.
Um, well, I really enjoyed having that as my first storyline because in my first year of being at Days, I think I've pretty much worked with every character that's been on it in this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had, I think I've been in at least scenes with everyone, even if I haven't maybe directly spoken to them, and with almost everyone, I'd say. But I think that's really cool. I think that might be, I don't know. I don't know if that's common or not, but I felt really lucky that I got to work with so many people who've been on the show for so long in my first couple months of being on it. So I really loved doing that and getting to meet everyone. And I learned about their history and our family history when I got those scenes. So it was like a learning while also meeting people, and it made the whole process easier for me as well.
Mm-hmm. And how about for you, Bryan, that storyline?
I think it has done a great job getting all the characters involved in it. It's definitely a central storyline that has everyone kind of buzzing around the hive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it hasn't always been like that. Usually in the past, storylines have been separate. And
Right.
you could work 3 years with somebody and be like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if we ever had scenes together? And you're like, yeah. But I think Ron does a very good job. Our head writer now does a very good job of incorporating a central storyline that everybody is kind of involved in, directly or indirectly, but everyone still has their point of view on it. So I think it's kind of a newer thing in the last couple of years, and I think it definitely helps the show.
Mm-hmm. Then the show has been around for a long time. It's a history block in itself for being around 55, 56 years, and you're in the 14,000th episode is airing today. Can you just talk a little bit about, well, Lindsay, it's newer for you, but can you talk a little bit about the history of the show, what you knew about the show coming on? And then, Bryan, can you talk about like one of the first memories you have on set?
Sure.
Do you want to go first, Bryan?
No, you go first.
Okay.
Ladies first. Ladies.
So yeah, I didn't know a ton of the history because I didn't watch the show religiously.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents watched it like growing up, so I would watch it when I was there, like if it was on, you know what I mean. But it's a lot of history, even for people who I think have been on the show forever to kind of understand and take in. So
Right.
yeah, it definitely. I had to do a lot of research once I got the role and kind of started actually needing to understand different relationships and such. So I didn't know too much. I knew like Marlena's character. I think I knew a little bit about Ali Sweeney. So
Yeah.
I think I knew some of the characters and recognized them, but it definitely I had a lot of homework to do when I started. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Bryan, you're like, do you remember? You have a funny story about like your first time on set or first time you saw yourself on TV as Lucas? Do you have any? You always have a fun, good story to share.
Oh man, this was torture my first day. I had to be like butt naked with a rock star named Cherish, and I had to kiss her, and I had the most corny line. My first line was, she's like, oh, and she had like this Australian accent. And she was like, oh, oh, that was amazing. And I'm like coming up and kissing her neck, and I'm like, that's the least I could do for the ride home from the airport. And I was thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? The soap opera is just crazy. And I remember like it was really cold too, the set, and I remember like freezing, and I remember like looking down at my chest, going, "Oh my god, my nipples are never this hard. This is so uncool." And then I think, "Oh, I can't show that because I want to like look studly." I don't know. It was hard, man. I hated it. And then I always hate taking off my shirt, even if I'm in shape, which I'm usually not. But if I am, then I'm always like, "Oh no." So that was weird. But I remember, watching a lot of Frances Reed before I was on the show, and she was always kind of like the pinnacle of the soap opera, matriarch. And I always just remember thinking how cool she was in real life, and how people are just a little different than their characters in each way. Like, I was scared of Deidre Hall for the first like 5 years on the show, but then I realized after like spending time with her and traveling and talking with her, she is the most down to earth, loving, supportive, coolest person you could ever meet. But to me at the time, she was this huge soap opera icon. So I don't know. I just it taught me that people are people no matter what, and then there's their characters. So that was kind of cool to kind of break down those stereotypes that you might think people have.
Mm-hmm. Then lastly, for both you guys, what is rehearsing like now during COVID, and how are you guys working on your father-daughter relationship?
Rehearsing is a lot more annoying now because
Mm-hmm.
we have to do it over Zoom. Not even over Zoom, over Teams or some sort of app for that. But not everyone has good service, so it's like really choppy, and sometimes it's just not even worth it to run the lines, unfortunately, because it's just frustrating and you can't kind of get through to each other. So it's definitely a lot harder now to kind of connect and work on those scenes before we shoot.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be ready for unplanned moments a lot more now,
which is fun, which is nice.
Right? Yeah, but like when I'm running the lines with Maria over the phone, there's only so much I can picture before we do it.
Right.
But it also kind of leaves for more spontaneity in the scene too. Because I remember the scenes that we just did, and I knew that Lindsay was going to be upset, because Lindsay's always upset in these scenes. But I knew that she had a reason to be upset in the scene. But the way she played it, as I saw for the first time taping it, makes you react in a way that is more present. So it's harder, but you have to trust yourself more. And then you don't get to run the blocking, which is hard for me because I usually associate a lot of my lines with the blocking. So, your movement, you become a little robotic and less fluid in the movement for the shots. But the acting wise, it like ups the ante, because it's almost like jumping off a cliff with someone and be like, okay, hang on, we're going to hit the water together. Ready, go! So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. It's more fun. Keeps you on your toes more.
That's great. Well, speaking of fun, thank you guys so much for this experience and chatting with us.
We're done! That's
yeah. Lunch!
This
Lunch!
Woo! Thank you guys.
I know. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much.